And
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Now I have earphones on and you're all too loud.
I think I have to turn this.
Alexa, my kids don't like it. I put on Alexa and I sing in the kitchen. They have a problem with that.
They have an issue with that. Yeah.
I fight with my Alexa. I yell at her.
How come it's recording? Oh.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah.
Before we start, if you could make an announcement about people who join from the public who have a question should submit their question via chat. I will be monitoring the chat.
Thank you, Ed. I really don't know what time it is down in my cell, so.
8:02.
8:02.
So let's all rise. I'll probably pull the telephone off. I was going to say off the hook, but I don't think you do that anymore. Let's do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Good evening, all, and those who are joining us remotely. All board members and district staff are joining us remotely. We are also going to catch up on our budget PowerPoint presentation. Please bear with us in terms of this method. In terms of the agenda, if you don't have the agenda of the PowerPoint, it is available on the district website. If you have a question, there are 2 points when you may present your question. I would suggest for the portion that is for the agenda questions, wait until Gordon and Linda have completed their presentation. And that's when we'll take those questions. And at the end, we'll try to field some general questions. I will tell you up front, with regards to questions or comments, we ask you not to use teachers' names or ask us specifically about teachers' efforts with regards to digital presentations or classroom or submissions or their teaching. That's something that we are asking you to do so through your teacher, through the principal, and thereafter the superintendent, but in that order. The board does not have any role in that in this sense. Right now, I will say that this was pulled together in a very short period of time. It's not like we have a digital learning platform sitting in mothballs ready to go. This has been extraordinary times, and certainly your patience is necessary, as well as our patience with you in terms of you have a lot on your plate at your households. One of the things that we've addressed through the superintendent has been issues relating to assignments or the multiplicity of assignments, so that everyone recognizes, including material coming from the classroom, that we all have stuff on our plate that is much beyond what we had ever anticipated. So your patience, both in how we present this program tonight and with what we're doing, is appreciated. Just for tonight, what you'll see is a proposed budget going forward. By proposed, I would emphasize that this is a time frame when the state is unable to tell us where they stand, and the governor will have multiple opportunities to change the budget and therefore aid to schools. This is a understanding of where we stand right now. It does not mean that this is going to be the budget. We will know in the future. The governor has said that we'll know before May 15th, and that may be part of our May presentation. Normally, we do 3 PowerPoint presentations or workshops. We may do another one in May before there is ever a hearing. And please keep in mind that according to the governor's office and executive orders, any budget will be put off till at least June 1st. So we don't know even at that point where it's going to be. With that, I'm going to take things a little bit out of order and ask Steve, would you please present the approval of the minutes, and then we'll move into the superintendent's report and budget presentation.
Sure. Approval of minutes. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby approves minutes of March 31st, 2020 regular meeting and the April 22nd, 2020 special meeting as submitted.
I second that.
Thank you, Pete. Some comments on that. There was a special meeting held on April 22nd. I'm currently functioning on today, tomorrow, yesterday, and I'm not doing very well on what day it is or what date. So I believe that was last week. The Smart Schools money has been approved. We had a brief meeting last week, a public meeting that was posted for purposes of voting on the resolutions so that the work can begin immediately. There will be another special meeting rather than wait for the scheduled meeting for, I believe it's May 8th, just on that topic. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
We can't really
Aye.
see your hands. Aye. Gordon, if we'll, Linda could move into the report and budget presentation.
Okay, Ken, are you prepared to put on the PowerPoint?
Yes, I am.
That's my man. Okay, would you please put it on the screen? That's it. I'd like to welcome our board members in on the presentation, as well as those in the community who are joining us this evening. I'm sure Monica Stone is out there. She's never missed one in 6 years and gets a perfect attendance award. So welcome, Monica. Ken, let's start with the slide. As Bob said before, it's proposed budget, especially these days because we're not sure what is going to motivate the governor to change his mind. Ken, put on the first slide, please. Uncertain times, certainly, for everybody. And that's why it's kind of crazy what's happening tonight. Bob pointed out earlier, this would have been our March presentation. Those of you who have attended regularly know that we presented in January and February, although it seems like 10 years ago. This should be our March presentation when we normally don't have all of our certainties in. Certainties, I mean by state aid and all the numbers. But because it's late April, when we do get those numbers, we do know what the state aid we did receive based on the governor's first budget and what our tax levy would be allowed to be, which I will show you. But by uncertain times, everyone uses the term unprecedented times, and everyone's going through this in our community, and the board realizes that. Everyone's worrying, will I catch the virus? Will I recover? What will happen to the economy? Will I lose my job? How can I pay my mortgage? Like we all wonder, will life ever return to the days before coronavirus? And all of us, will we return to school? And then certainly the big factor here tonight, will the governor cut school aid? Will our budget change? So we will address those things. You can see the 3 factors that contribute to uncertainty: effective potential cuts in New York State school aid. The governor has pointed out Friday, May 1, then 2 weeks later, May 15th, he may need to cut our aid that we thought we were going to get, and we'll see it tonight. We won't know, so what I'm presenting to you tonight is uncertain to an extent. But he has talked about a further 20% school aid cut, which would be devastating, devastating. All right, the next point is tax levy, just mentioned. Our tax levy allowed by the state this year, normally in the past, we'd see it as a good one, 2.43. Why is that good? Because in the past, we've been almost 0.17, below 1. And when you get to 2, because Linda normally plans her budget based on a 2% increase before she gets to see any numbers. But this year, we know what it is. And every year, I tell the community and the board, we want a budget that supports our programs that are successful. We just received news that we are again a reward school, school of recognition, the high school, 7 years in a row. We attribute that to great staff, great programs that help our kids be successful. We want to keep that instruction going. So these are the things we're dealing with. Ken?
Just to add, Gordon, if you don't mind, the 3 points that we looked at in this process in coming to today's budget is driven by, I've been participating in the programs put on by the State Ed and the New York School Boards Association in Albany on the budget. And it is a very worrisome time for everyone and also for school districts. Looking at the comments, they've spoken as to financial aid presently in the state's budget is flat, so the same as last year, but with the proviso that in the next 3 points, May 15th, July 15th, and in December, the state can resubmit their budget. And there has been comment that presently there could be a 20% decrease in school aid. School aid is made up of a lot of different parts, so it's not sure, I can't tell you which or where that aid would be decreased, but it just tells us to be very careful going forward. At the same time, recognizing our community is not in the same financial position that it may have been 5 weeks ago. Thank you, Gordon.
Absolutely, and that's why the community and the board will hear tonight the sensitivity that the board is showing regarding the tax levy, realizing our lives are different, that some people may have lost their jobs or furloughed, or in some terrible cases, they might have lost their businesses. So things are not what they were. This is a brand new game. And again, we're holding our breath May 1 and 15, but the governor also has the opportunity to cut the budget in July. The worst scenario is mid-year.
We're trying to listen.
Which happened in the past, and they're devastating mid-year cuts because your budget's in place already, and you don't want to have to cut in the middle of the year and lay people off and cut programs at mid-year. But first things first, Friday and May 15th are key, and by Friday, probably everybody knows, we'll know if we're going back to school, if so, when, or we're not going back to school at all this year. So these 2 dates are very important that you see on the screen. Okay, Ken?
As we move on to the next slide, just a reminder to the public when you join, so as not to be deleted out of the program, please avoid having your audio turned on or your video. You may submit your questions on the agenda by chat. They'll go through up here on the board, and we'll read those questions as and try to avoid duplication if you have those questions.
Great. Thank you, Bob.
We'll entertain them, and I apologize, we'll entertain them at the end, but I just wanted to make sure you understand you have to send your questions in writing. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Gordon.
Sure, no problem. Thank you for saying that. And maybe some people should put their computer on mute at this point too, with outside noises. So the tax levy allowed by the state this year, again, under normal circumstances, we would be pretty happy because we always plan on a 2. By law, we could do a 2.43 tax levy this year. However, upon hearing that and the board being sensitive to the community, this is not the old days. they're only proposing a 1% tax levy, which is less than half of what the state would allow us to do this year. Because things are different, the needs of the community are different. Okay, Ken?
Next slide, please, Ken.
Okay, so basically that was our intro. This would have been the beginning of the March meeting before school was closed, the third and final part. And so we're in March right now. So tonight we're talking about operations and maintenance, grounds and security, health services, athletics, salaries and benefits. So let's get to specifics. Next page.
We go.
Okay, operations and maintenance first. You'll see this year there's an $84,000 increase, mainly because of the needs and contractual service contracts, the rest. Again, we don't want to fall behind with things or not have enough money planned. So contracts go up, we provided for the increases. There are also increases in oil and electric because like at home, we know that they're gonna go up every year in oil and electric. Jeez.
Yes.
Ladies and
People push
gentlemen,
mute,
if you are on to avoid being removed from the program, if you have your audio on, please shut it off. It is interrupting the program.
In addition to contractual and oil and electric increase, you'll see that BOCES also increased because what we did was, formerly we had a company, Broderick, who did all of our, maintenance services, water towers, heating. We put under BOCES now to save us money and get us state aid. So when you look at increasing contractual planning, oil and electric perhaps going up, and BOCES adding that additional service under there results in an $84,000 increase. Ken?
Next slide, Ken.
Grounds and security, it's a $15,000 issue, and it's simple. It's basically security. We have the bid going out there, so in order to be prepared to handle the bid, that on security, and again, we don't know about these times, if we're open, closed. We're safe going up, preparing if we need to spend a little more money than the current contract as we budgeted last year. So that results in the $18,000 increase for security.
Gordon, the intent was in this area is that we have expanded some of the hours where our security people are on staff, both in the booth and elsewhere, to have a more comprehensive presence.
Right, and we also have weekend security too. That's our only unarmed piece.
Yes.
Okay, Ken? Athletics, only a $2,000 increase, and that's the materials and supplies, which you could probably understand what we need to keep the program going. So minimal, basically flat in athletics. Okay, Ken? Health services, again, less than athletics, basically flat, $1,200. We're replacing the beds in the nurse's office, which are kind of old and need replacing. So again, it's only a $1,200 increase, minimal, almost flat in health services. Ken? Ready, Ken?
Next slide, Ken, please.
Okay, this one we know we get hit with every year, employee benefits. Where does this hike of $272,695 come from? You have ERS and TRS increasing, particularly TRS. Last year, in 1920, it was 8.86. Now the state has told us this year round is 9.53, resulting in an increase of about $300,000. I always say ERS and TRS are things we can't control. You'll see Social Security is flat, a little decrease in health, Workers' comp, a little decrease. Unemployment insurance and hiring the gentleman who handles the TSA and Affordable Care Act monies, that's staying the same. So in that category, our largest hike is in this category, and it's due to ERS and TRS.
Just as an aside, TRS, ERS, the largest share is, of course, teachers' retirement system. Every district, every participant in the retirement system, whether it's employee retirement or teacher retirement, are given percentages based on the market performance from the controller's office. This is an increase. We have had savings in the past that were decreases because of the market increasing. When I first got on the board, we were well above 9%. We were in the 12.8, 13% range. And we are told what that amount will be based on rendering the New York State retirement system solvent.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
Next slide, please.
All right, now this is the total budget like we normally show, but we do a lot more detail in the past presentations. But January and February seems like it was 10 years ago, maybe to you also. But January's presentation was 12% of the total budget and a $42,000 hike in that category. What did we talk about? District office, liability insurance for the district, central printing, BOCE's administrative charges, which means what Mount Sinai pays to the co-op to use what we use BOCE's for, whatever services we use, and technology and debt service. And if any of you recall back in January, a big change there, what we needed to do as a result of the fall was cybersecurity, cyber PD, new software. The focus of January really was increasing cameras, cyber insurance, and cyber protection. That was 12% of the budget. Then February, we talked about instructional areas, pupil personnel services, guidance, and auxiliary areas. That was 10% of the budget. And that actually decreased by a significant amount versus January. And what was all of that? Unfunded state mandates, which I know they're going to continue to do. Workshops, because of the new regions coming out, the new generation standards. Again, non-funded mandates, sexual harassment training every year, active shooter training every year, cybersecurity, professional development. We increased slowly our number of kids going to BOCES for occupation education and various air conditioners in the schools, but that decreased. So that was January, February. Tonight, we actually did the March meeting, as I said, when we really wouldn't know all the numbers, but this was the presentation for operations, maintenance, ground security, athletics, health services. Salaries was the big hit. Long story short, look at the bottom line. Last year's budget was $61,009,770. This year's proposed budget, which could change anytime because of uncertainty, $61,769,870. That results in an increase of $760,000 over last year, which is an increase of 1.25%. Ken, next. Right now, because based on the governor's last budget, this is what we are doing state aid as we speak. This is what we fear may change Friday, may change May 15th, could change in July after we might get a budget vote in June and vote on this. We might have to undo it. But as we speak, here's the state aid. Why is there a slight decrease from last year? If you look at the building aid, we went down because we paid off loans, our bonds on things we're finished with. So if you don't have the loans or the bonds, your building aid goes down. That resulted in a decrease in our total state aid. But we were pretty happy with this when we got this from the state. But that's before things became very strange, results of the pandemic. The governor claiming there's a $9 to $13 billion deficit. He's looking for federal aid, as Bob said, really looking for it. Look, if anyone saw it today, he's looking real hard for the federal aid. And I guess if he doesn't get it, this could be cut significantly. All right, Ken. Again, we want to show these dates because not only can we get brand new on the budget, May 1 and 15th, we'll find out if we're going to go back to school. I need to go back to school because I need to shave. Okay, Ken, next slide. The working budget, as we look at it. Last year, our tax levy brought in $40,986,000. We can have, remember, permissible by the state, a 2.43. However, the board has decided they're not going out with the full tax levy. They're going out with a 1%, less than half of what they could have, because sensitive to the condition and needs of our community at this time. Appropriate fund balance, and see what we take out of our savings, and to meet the budget needs. But we have revenue, not only from the state, but there are other sources of revenue. And again, the budget on the bottom line is $760,000 deficit, and a budget increase of 1.25. All right, Ken, next slide, please. Now, even with this budget, we have had money put aside because the bond did not happen. Ken, we went one slide too far. Oh, there we go. Okay. We have this money to make these repairs, but the community, whenever we have a vote, perhaps in June, we need the community to approve these monies go for these purposes. We need to do the last third piece of the high school roof. We had issues in the basement of the high school this year because pipes in the basement were bursting, had to be repaired. We had all year, there are buckets under these pipes. Not a good thing under the high school. We don't replace them, that it could be devastating to that building. But again, if you look at this like repairing your home, making those repairs, you'll see that these things you do. You fix your roof, you fix the pipes, middle school replacement water heater, middle school and elementary install a unisex AD appropriate bathrooms. And in the elementary school, we need a hot water tank. All these things sound like home repairs. Adding them up is $1.2 million. That money you saw is not in the budget. We have it, but the community needs to vote on and approve these repairs. And may I tell you, just picking these repairs out of all the repairs we need in the district was not easy. We had to pick the most urgent ones, and that's why we dwindled our lengthy list down to just this. But don't forget, we also repair all year long and fix things. Our buildings
Gordon,
are getting...
if I could join in.
Sure.
When we examined, this is money that we have been putting away in capital reserve so that we can address them in lieu of a potential bond. There's always projects. The list can go on and on. There's a lot of, I won't say wish lists, but when you whittle it down to the way you would run your household, you address things as they need to come and in a scheduled fashion. In this process, where we have come this year, there may have been some intent to have a few other projects that weren't as imperative, but were good projects that eventually will have to be done, but they weren't immediate. These are immediate projects that we want to proceed with. This money is already earmarked in the capital reserve, can only be used for construction projects, things like this. So we don't have, this is what capital reserve is for. we won't be putting as much as we had intended back into capital reserve. We won't be wiping it out, but these are the bigger projects that needed to be completed. My wish was to complete the roof in its stages. The high school, for example, is really 3 wings and the auditorium. This would complete all of the roof repairs over time, over the past, I guess, 3 years, in stages as to necessity, as well as the projects that were discussed in Gordon's presentation. We also included in our ADA compliant bathrooms for both buildings, because those are much older buildings and we have no ability to alter them absent a complete redo of those student bathrooms. But
Bob,
yes.
we do have a couple of questions when you're ready to field them.
Yep, we'll take those at the close. When we're at the close, we'll go through each one. I've seen them come up. Thank you for writing them. I've seen them come up at the bottom. But that's why it's important to remember, you'll be voting at some point in time. We don't have an answer when there will be a vote or how the vote will occur. We'll await the governor's office on that. But there's, assuming the budget, capital reserve, you have to vote to move that money out of capital reserve. That capital reserve money is not able to be used in the classroom, is not able to be used other than for construction projects. And while normally we would have our associates and friends from the library district, there will be a library budget presented. Next slide,
Okay.
Ken.
Thanks, Bob.
Oh,
Oh, one
More.
too far.
there we go.
There we go. So again, repeating, total proposed budget, as we are kind of in March, still uncertain of where certain numbers will be. That's our proposed budget, $6,709,000. Bob just lengthily discussed our capital project and why we need that done. And the community will vote on that. In the library, we don't really have control over Port Jeff and Comstock. They come up with that figure. Okay, now as we're at the end of the presentation, again, I've been telling you throughout, this is basically a March presentation. Normally in April, or this past month, the board would accept the budget or challenge it in April. Now that we have these dates where the governor has the ability to change our budget, next month in May, mid-May, will actually be our April meeting when we have a better idea of what our numbers are. So we'll be presenting in May. We will see what damage or what help the state gives us. We'll see if the federal government partially bails out the state to help fill the $13 billion deficit. But there are a lot of things up in the air. Hopefully they'll come together by May and there won't be so much uncertainty out there, and we'll have a number and a budget that we can vote on at some time. That's the end of mine. And then Ed, I guess we'll take the questions.
Yes, Ed, I saw a couple of questions come up. If you could read the question out for us.
Sure. The first question was posed by Monica regarding the 2021 appropriated fund balance of $2,073,268. The question is, what will be the remaining fund balance at the end of 2021? And then there are some follow-on questions, both from Monica, Brad, and another one that just came in.
With regards to the fund balance, if I could ask Linda to address that. Let's address what happens this year, what happens next year, and what happens in year 3 really would be the answer to those questions.
Well, based on what we have now in 1920, we would expect 3.5 million left, or 3.6 million at the end of 2021, which is about 5.8%. At the end of 2021, we're expecting 2.1 million left after appropriations, and that's 3.4%. And 21, 22, we're probably expecting about 400,000, and that's 0.69%. But now we also we're going to probably have a little bit more money at the end of this year, which could help us. But that's what we're expecting.
Monica, to address this, frankly, at this point, we're comfortable with our estimation for next year because of the uncertainty of what's going forward in terms of what we will receive, what contracts are coming up, how things will be addressed in the third year, the 0.69. Look at really for next year, we will be just under the 4% cap. It's a little bit deeper than we had anticipated in the 5-year plan, but relatively close. For example, the budget that would fall in the 2.43 realm would be a 179. Is that correct, Linda?
Which,
If based on where we started, there was I'll use approximate 1.79 approximately increase in the budget.
oh,
We pushed things forward into next year, some items, and drew a little bit more out of fund balance to bring us to 1%. We thought that was very important given the circumstances. There's lots of people who, if they're employed, they may have gone through a furlough of a reduction in days in the office. They may have a reduction in salary, or there may be members of our community who are seeing a second income eliminated. There's a lot of stuff out there, and none of it is in your control. We can control some of this while maintaining the continuity of our 5-year plan, which is based on how our contractual relationships go forward. So we're coming to the end of the first 5-year phase. Better call it a 5-year phase. I hope that answers your question. Ed, you had another question from another member?
Yeah, Bob, Ed lost his internet connection. He's trying to get back in, but I can pick up the questions.
Thank you, sir.
One of them was from Brad. He was asking about with the new projections of when the fund balance would go negative. You spoke to that a lot, I believe. I don't know if you want to get in detail with that. Along with that, he's also asking how much of the capital projects are eligible for reimbursement by the state.
I'll let Linda answer that. I think
all of it would be eligible. But it's at 78% that we get reimbursed for.
We also have another question as a follow-up from Monica. After the 1.2 million is taken from capital reserve fund, how much money is remaining? It doesn't look like the district will be okay. It doesn't look like the district will be adding more money to the capital reserve fund this year. Is that accurate?
That's correct. At the end of the year, we might, if we have money left over and we're in a better situation, we may put more money in.
we just to go through, and I'm not going to ask Ken to put up the screen of the different projects, so I'm going to do it from the top of my head. We estimated a little higher for certain projects, rounded up, only because, you know, I'll use the roof, for example. We ripped off the roof in the art wing, and we found additional work that had to be done. So like anything else, we are anticipating that. This is the least troublesome portion of the building. Let's be hopeful. We also don't anticipate significant greater expenses in the work to be done for purposes of the bathrooms. So we've tried to do it in a manner that let's do it smartly, and then if there's money not used, it can go back. Or as we go through the year, the reason we're able to meet these capital projects is we prepare for them like you would do in your household. And we're coming in with 500,000 in the capital reserve. It's not small, but as you can see, we can burn through $800,000 just with the roof. we hope that we will be in a better position to put additional monies into that. And that has been our plan over the past 3 years, that we regularly maintain or increase that. And look, if we ended up putting 250,000, that's a good move forward. These are some of the major projects that had to be done. And there may be other projects that we postpone that are not, I hate to use the word need, but they're not emergent. I hope that answers your questions. What was the last question, Steve?
The last two questions we got are regarding technology. I don't know if you want to deal with them now or at the end of the meeting. Good.
Let's, in terms of the technology, read the questions if necessary. We could put them off to the end, but just read the questions if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. The first one, with the closing of schools, we quickly realized that Mount Sinai was behind technology-wise. Neighboring districts like Kumsawag provide their kids with Chromebooks. Is there anything in the budget to upgrade technology? Students don't even have email addresses.
I think
That's one.
Ken could probably address that. Ken?
Yes. So we believe Chromebooks to be an inferior product. We provide Microsoft products as well as iPad. As far as upgrading, it took a while to get the Smart Schools approved. Money has been approved, had been approved since last summer, and since that time, we've bought a lot of Apple equipment. We've put in new fiber between the buildings, and we also will be now upgrading all of the infrastructure, which means the large switches, which means the wireless system, the firewalls. So all of that will be upgraded. That will be happening this summer, and hopefully, actually a little bit before this summer, they'll be working May on that. Additionally, all of the computing devices, desktops, laptops, notebooks will be swapped out with new modern equipment. I'm taking a look at some of the pricing, and it's great, the pricing that we're getting, and we're gonna have some really wonderful equipment when the kids come back.
All right. But Steve, are there any other questions on the agenda? If not, we're going to move on to the rest of the agenda.
That pretty much answered the next question, which was asking what the plan is for updating Mount Sinai. Ken, one thing, if you could you see if you can get Ed back in? I believe he's in the waiting room.
Oh, he was in the waiting room. I admitted him, and now he's back in the waiting room.
All right, let's move on to the agenda.
Bob, before you do that, Ken.
Yes.
I thought when we rehearsed this, I was not going to be shown on the screen when I was narrating the program. I didn't realize. I thought I was comfortable, and I was moving in and out of the screen. So now that
we had reason to believe that possibly we were all getting seasick.
Yes,
you were rocking, Gordon.
and
Couldn't stop you.
I
People were
apologize.
texting me, Gordon. I couldn't stop you.
We all texted.
I was trying to be comfortable.
Please tell Gordon to stop
narrating.
rocking.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Right, Ken? Was I not supposed to be visible here, or what?
All right, let's move on. Personnel.
It's the mustache.
Anne Marie, would you please take number 1?
Sure. Retirement, Kenneth Dockers. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby accepts the resignation for retirement purposes of Kenneth Dockers, Network and Systems Coordinator, effective November 1st, 2020. Further, Mr. Jockers shall receive all benefits associated with the memorandum of agreement between the Board of Administrations Association dated April 17th, 2019.
I second that.
Thank you, Steve. Any comments?
Ken,
Ken,
no,
you're going to be
go.
tough to replace, and you're an extraordinarily hard worker. I've appreciated getting to know you and work with you. Thank you for staying on through November. Any other comments?
I'd like to make one. Ken and I were in the same industry for a very long time, and I'm very appreciative of the work he's done in this district over the years he's been here. I know it's better than most what that job is really like and how thankless it is. Ken, you've done a great job. Thank you for all your service.
Thank you, Steve.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Number 2, child care leave, Kerry Herman. Ed, would you take that?
Child care leave, Kerry Herman. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby approves the child care leave request of Kerry Herman, English teacher, for the 2020-21 school year.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Rob. Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
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 Vote carries. Appointment of school psychologist. Lisa, would you please take that?
Sure. Appointment of school psychologist, resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent. The Board of Education hereby approves the following probationary appointment. Name of employee Sheila Moran, tenure area school psychologist, appointment date May 26, 2020, expiration date May 25th, 2024. Compensation is step 1, MA, teacher schedule, certification status is permanent.
Excuse me.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ed. Any comments? Ms. Moran has been a psychologist, school psychologist in a program that our teachers know of and are active with for the past 10 years and really has a great deal of experience to bring to our district. Any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Vote carries. Thank you. Pete, would you please move on to substitute teachers number 4?
Substitute teachers, number 4, resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby approves the following substitute teachers. Kayla Shanor, start date March 19, 2020, substitute teacher, compensation $111 a day. Samantha Summers, start date March 19, 2020, position substitute teacher, compensation $111 a day.
Second.
Thank you, Rob. Any comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Vote carries. Action items, educational. Rob, would you please take that, please?
Committee on Special Education. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education has no objections to the following special education recommendations and approves authorization for the funds to implement the special education programs and services consistent with such. Special Education Committee, preschool meeting date February 27, 2020. Elementary school meeting date January 28, 2020. Elementary school March 12th, meeting date 2020.
I second that.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you very much. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Vote carries. Action items, business. Looks like a lawyer wrote this, so I'll read this one.
That's the
Joint Municipal Cooperative Bidding Program resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of the Board of Education hereby approves the following resolution for BOCES cooperative bidding services, whereas various educational municipal corporations located within the state of New York desire to bid jointly for generally needed services and standard supply and the equipment, and whereas the Mount Sinai School District, an educational municipal corporation hereinafter referred to as the participant, is desirous of the selectivity participating with other educational and municipal corporations in the state of New York in joint bidding in areas mentioned above pursuant to General Municipal Law Section 119-0 and Education Law 1950, and whereas the participant in a municipality within the meaning of General Municipal Law Section 119N and is eligible to participate in the Board of Education and Educational Services First Supervisory District of Suffolk County, hereinafter Eastern Suffolk BOCES Joint Municipal Cooperative Bidding Program, hereinafter the program, in the areas mentioned above, and whereas the participant acknowledges receipt of the program description inclusive of Eastern Suffolk BOCES standard bid packet and general conditions relating to said program, and whereas with respect to all activities conducted by the program, the participant wishes to delegate to the Eastern Suffolk BOCES the responsibility for drafting of bid specifications, advertising for bids, accepting and opening bids, tabulating bids, awarding the bids, and reporting the results to the participant Be it resolved that the participant hereby appoints Eastern Suffolk BOCES to present it and to act as lead agent in all matters relating to the program as described above, and be it further resolved that the participant hereby authorizes Eastern Suffolk BOCES to place all legal advertisements for any required cooperative bidding in Newsday, which is designated as the official newspaper for the program, and be it further resolved that the participant meeting shall be held annually consisting of a representative of each program participant. Notice of the meeting shall be given to each representative at least 5 days prior to such hearing, and be it further resolved that the advisory committee will be formed consisting of 5 to 10 representatives of the program participants for a term of 3 years as authorized by the General Municipal Law, Section 119-0.2J. Be it further resolved that the agreement with the participant shall be for a term of 1 year as authorized under the General Municipal Law, Section 119-02J. Be it further resolved that the participant agrees to pay Eastern Suffolk BOCES an annual fee as determined annually by the Eastern Suffolk BOCES to act as lead agent for the program. May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Pete. Any comment? All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Aye.
Steve, would you take scope membership?
It's no fun. I can't do as good as you just did.
God he's
Years of practice, my friend.
Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby agrees to join Scope Education Services at a cost of $2,448 for the time period July 1, 2020 through June 30th, 2021.
I'll
May I
second
have a
that.
second? Thank you, Ed. Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
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 Coming back to Anne Marie, donation.
Donations. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby accepts a donation from Renew Restoration of 250 packages of face masks to be distributed to families who are taking advantage of the ongoing school breakfast lunch program.
Thank you, Anne Marie. Thank you, Rob. Any comments? Just as an aside, you're getting calls on a regular basis about the school breakfast lunch program. One, we're required to do that. Two, it's a general call so that there is no indication one way or the other of anyone in need. This is another excellent part of this program where there will be need by some of our community for masks, and I'd like to thank Renew Restoration for this gift and this donation.
If I could just add, Renew is
Yes.
actually the owners and partners of Renew, the benefactors of a charity known as Promise of Hope. And Promise of Hope is actually who put this together. They offered it to all the schools in Suffolk and Nassau County, and I believe we'll be getting them at the end of this week, assuming we accept the donation.
Wonderful gesture. Thank you, Steve, for adding that. And Rob, would you do obsolete equipment?
We have to vote.
Oh, sorry. Thank you very much.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Steve. Rob, would you do obsolete equipment?
Obsolete equipment. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby declares the following items as obsolete and authorizes disposal as listed. Item, library chair, number 00335, middle school, discard.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ed. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
And
Aye.
Lisa? Oh, did we
Transfer-
vote? Sorry, I'm getting a little lost here.
Yeah, we voted.
Thank you.
Yes.
Lisa, would you do
Transportation
5,
addendum.
transportation?
Sure. Transportation addendum, resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent. The Board of Education hereby authorizes Superintendent Rosdow to execute the attached addendum to the transportation agreement between the district and First Student.
Second.
Thank you, Steve. Any comments? All in favor? Say aye.
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 Very good. I
Bob,
may
we
be
do
missing a
have
page.
one more question that came up.
Okay, just checking. Is that the last item? Because I don't have
Yes.
anything after
It
that.
is.
Thank
Yes,
you.
it is.
All right, one more question. Ed, would you please read that?
Monica Stone posed the question, what is the scope membership, scope educational services for, and what does it include?
I can add a few
Gordon?
things, Ed. First of all, Scope gives us a scholarship. This year, we're a member for free. It includes a $500 scholarship for one of our seniors. They also, when the state made these demands on us for the childcare, we're using Scope services at Miller Place. They're providing that without charge. We also look for, we've had to fill some of our administrative positions last summer, where Scope does all of that free of charge. There are many benefits. They'd come in, and they've also provided in-service training for our teachers free of charge. So we got the year for free. We got a scholarship this year out of that as well. And next year we agreed to join to take advantage of the services they offer, including a scholarship.
Thank you, Gordon. Ed, without any other questions, otherwise we'll take a...
We have two other questions, but they are missing from my chat history since my
Steve, do you have them?
connection.
Yes, one of them, these came in as we were ending before on technology. In response to Ken's answer, the question was, I understand we have Microsoft products and we have products going into the building and the back-end infrastructure. What I'm asking is what will be available to students to use at home, et cetera. And with a secondary from a different person, also asking if to address any plans or discussions regarding technology for students, laptops, iPads, Chromebooks, et cetera, that would facilitate distance or home-based learning. This could be important to ensure appropriate contingency plans that are evenly applied for all students and teachers.
Ken, you want to jump in?
Gordon or Ken?
Yep, I can handle it. Well, we have a 5-year technology plan. I don't want to speak out of turn, but if you go to the plan, which is posted on our website, one of the years, I think 3 or 4, we start up a one-to-one program with Microsoft product laptops. We'll be starting up in the high school. Now, this is contingent upon budgets passing. So we need the budget passed, the technology budget for that function. We also, with distance learning, currently we've been getting requests through the principals for equipment to be loaned out to residents, and we have loaned out equipment to residents. We have loaned out iPads, which seems to be working for the residents. We are in a Microsoft school as well as a Google school. So we use both of those cloud products, and the platforms we run allow that.
Thank you, Ken. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn this meeting.
I second.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Thank you all. Be safe, be careful, be safe at home. Thank you, members of the board, and have a good evening.